Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity, and thank you for the introduction. Basically, that means I'm the chief propeller head for my company, and we do cloud computing, so I get to build, engineer, architect, and do the things. One of the earlier speakers talked about perception versus reality, and while the title of the slide says cloud, I think that is the reality of what it is and what we work in, but the perception, as you guys see it today, is called the Internet of Things, right? And that dynamic of how that is shifting. This is a study that IDC did. By the year 2020, there will be 4 billion connected people on the internet, consisting of $4 trillion of revenue opportunity, 25 million plus apps, 25 billion embedded and intelligent systems. So whether that's your Nest thermometer at your house, your computer, your iPhone, and then 50 trillion gigabytes of data. These are just big numbers that basically say this is what the Internet of Things is, and basically what we do and what's behind this is basically what is considered cloud. So you say, how does this relate to me, right? You guys have all, we don't want to go through stereotypes or as somebody said before, not being politically correct, right? But you're the generation of millennials, right? And you guys are the biggest change behind how we present, how the industry interacts and presents technology to you, right? When I was growing up, I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have internet in my home until I was probably 18 years old. And really it wasn't anything useful like it is today, right? There was no, search engine back then or anything of that. So you guys have grown up with, more advanced technology, easier access to it, and because of that, your perception of how you interact with both technology and other people has dramatically changed. There's a bunch of statistics up here. I'm only going to point out the biggest ones. The top one that we always talk about is 95% of millennials are motivated to work harder when they know what their work is going towards, right? Sense of achievement has outpaced, how much am I going to earn? What's my title going to be? Things of that nature. Where in my time growing up, those were things that we aspire to in our career. Now, sense of achievement. The other one up here was positive culture is more important and essential to their dream job as opposed to do I have a corner office or things of that nature. And then, your sort of perception is basically the right side of this, is basically a retailer's ability to make a customer smile is 33% more important to a millennial shopper than it is to a baby boomer, right? So I'm sort of in between millennial and baby boomer, but when I walk into Best Buy, right, I don't care if I'm smiling, I just need to know where the product is, I want to go buy it and get out of there, right? A little bit different. So all of this together, so you have the Internet of Things, and you basically have, the changing culture around you. Basically, what that does is it's changed how me as a technologist tries to interact with how society is changing. IDC is a research firm, if you guys don't, if you're not familiar with it. And basically, they explain it in terms of IT evolution. There are basically 3 platforms out there. The first platform you can think of, if you guys know computer history, like ENIAC down at University of Penn, the old vacuum tubes and mainframes. The second platform is basically what we're coming out of right now. So that's client server. So you have a machine that you use today, and you access your files on a Windows file server. That's basically second platform. And now we're moving into an age of what the industry that I work in is calling third platform. And third platform basically has 4 tenets. Cloud, so that could be anything from Amazon to Apple iCloud to anything that you consume as a service. Mobile, social, and big data. And this new platform will transform the way that the IT industry works, how I try to provide services to you and to many other businesses, connecting billions of people with millions of applications. So this is sort of basically the evolution of, the same picture of the evolution that I just spoke about. So when the first platform started, not very many users, not very many apps. As we go into second platform, which is where most businesses operate today, right? They have Microsoft products, they have other things that they support their business with, and now we're going into the third platform where that becomes sort of disconnected, right? There is no sense of I have a server room for my business, and sort of that has basically changed into the 4 pillars of the third platform, right? So cloud we've talked about. Big data is basically number crunching. I think the best example of this was an IBM commercial where they talk about their IBM Watson product, and they gathered all the data of a pastry shop, and they found out on Tuesdays that if it rained, that people bought more croissants than they did cannolis. So anytime the pastry place sees the weather forecast for Tuesday, it's going to rain, they make more croissants, right? So that was a small example of big data where they took all of their point of sale data, and they took all the other environments around it, they crunched it all together, and they came up with tangible information to run their business. Mobile, basically everything today is through this device, right? I operate more of my business through this device than I do my laptop anymore. And then obviously social. And you guys have come up in that world, right? For me, I think I started my Facebook account 3 years ago. I didn't have Twitter till this year. So I as an older generation, have lagged behind on making this part of my life. And really, this is where the world is going. I was talking about this wonderful device, right? I run a company that provides cloud services, all of these services to companies. Yet if I think about how I interact with my company, I do more on apps on this device than I do with the apps that I provide to my company, as part of my company's business, right? So whether I need to request a day off, whether I need to submit an expense report, right? These are all third-party apps that my company basically contracts from other companies, right? So even if I look at my business, where I'm trying to do a lot of this for customers, it's only a small subset of it, which is why you're seeing that explosion in the third platform. So now we have all this new technology, and really, it's what does this mean to me? What can I do to either embrace this, understand it, or use it? And the simple answer is you guys are already doing it, and you're doing it better than the people that have been in the industry for 20 years. So you guys are already ahead of it. The one thing that I always work with on, whether it's a career day or mentoring or, speaking at colleges, high schools, or venues like this, is, most people in this room probably know just as much, or if not more, about certain technologies than I do, and I've been doing this a very long time. The one place where I have excelled is you need to balance technology with soft skills. And while the third platform and everything cloud and everything that I talked about is very important, you guys have that down pat. If not, you probably will by the time you're done college anyway. But the one thing that has always hurt the adoption of technology and the proliferation of technology from newcomers is basically what we call soft skills. And I'd like to take the second part of the presentation to talk a little bit about soft skills. Obviously, in order to succeed long-term in your career, you've already mastered the third platform. But soft skills like communication, knowing how to build, manage relationships, are just as important, and sometimes I would say are even more important, depending upon how far you want to go, than technical skills that you need to do your job. And the best part about it is, soft skills are transferable, right? Learning how to interact with people, right? The previous speaker talked about, how you can relate to people and how that can break down barriers and build relationships. I count on relationships to run my business more than I count on the technology that runs it. right? Because without those relationships, I don't have rapport with people to get things done. So I'm going to spend a couple of slides here talking about some soft skills. So networking collaboration, right? Third platform, right? Through my phone, I can get to any app, I can get to any piece of information, and the barriers are removed. But at the end of the day, you still need to collaborate, right? Associates, need to draw innovation, ideas, and engagement from their peers. And obviously, only so much of that can be done over, instant messenger or whatever messenger you use today, right? So that includes things like, how do you verbally communicate? How do you make a presentation? How do you collaborate, right? Do you call a meeting? Or, let's just everyone get on a conference call, right? And obviously the ability to establish relationships, working in remote and virtual teams, and obviously flexibility, right? So these are some of the things from a soft skills perspective, from a collaboration standpoint. Agile work process. Anyone here do any coding, computer coding? So agile work process is, you'll find out, is basically a methodology to help with scheduling code, scheduling how you write code, scheduling how you push out code, and how you report on it. But a lot of those tenets translate to just, process-oriented work that you're trying to accomplish. So a lot of that agile work process, which grew up in coding, is actually being ported to other forms of businesses. And it really is about, things up here on the right: adaptability, facilitating flexibility, resiliency, and results-oriented, right? What did we say was one of the number one drivers for millennials within a work environment? Sense of achievement, right? So one of the good part of agile work process is you can see where you are, what you've done, what you've achieved, and then how far you have left to go. And working in that type of environment and being able to flourish in that type of environment is how a lot of technology companies are managing their people today. You guys probably have this better than I do, so I probably don't even need to talk about this. But like I said, I signed up for Twitter and LinkedIn. Right? LinkedIn is a professional version of Facebook for me to connect with people. And what's really cool about LinkedIn is, if I have a meeting with somebody I don't know, I can connect with them on LinkedIn and find some shared interests. Right? I can find out we both like golf, or we both like ultimate frisbee, or something like that. So that way I can start off a conversation. Hey, saw you were at a PATA event last weekend. How did that go for you, right? So now it starts to get down to, back to the beginning of verbal communications, working with other people, building relationships. Use this to your advantage. And obviously the collaboration, the awareness, and sort of the visuality, so to speak, of it. Mobility. Shipments of smartphones and tablets have officially exceeded shipments of desktops and laptops. Mobility skill of workers, especially when it comes to security, is imperative. I always joke with people, I could literally take any device and move to Australia and run our business remotely. Obviously, it goes against the tenets of trying to interact with people, but obviously from a technology standpoint, technology is far outpaced, where you are, what you're doing, right? Even this morning while I was sitting in breakfast, there was an issue I needed to address, and literally, booted up my laptop, and I was sitting there eating breakfast and taking care of something. It didn't matter where I was or what access I had. But this is the norm for you guys. I mean, even 5 years ago, or 10 years ago before Wi-Fi, it's like I literally sat with my phone and did a personal hotspot. Right, 10 years ago, that wasn't there. So a lot of things have changed from a technology standpoint. The question is, can you develop the skills around it to complement that? And that's really where a lot of these come in. Innovation, and I think this is probably one of the biggest ones. IDC predicts that 2015 will mark the third platform's shift to the innovation stage, with an explosion of innovation and value creation at the top. That's basically a fancy way of saying is there's a lot more Mr. Zuckerbergs in this audience than most people think. You all have great ideas, right? You have all used technology more than a lot of people out there, and it is more a part of your life that you have a better value perception of what the next big idea is, right? And you want to figure out how to tap that creativity, whether it's collaborating with people of like-mindedness, right? Of again, goes back to technology trend awareness, written communications, things like that. Is how can you foster those ideas and bring them forward? And then at some point in time, you're going to have customers. And obviously, a lot of what I do today is less about wearing the propeller head and spinning it every day, and more about how I make my customers' lives easier. And obviously, that relationship with a customer who's basically paying to put food on your table, if they have a bad day, guess what? You're having a bad day. So understanding that relationship, and understanding what problems they face, because every customer's problem is different, right? One might be financial, the other one might be technology, and the third might be, look, we just don't have the people to do this, so help me. So being able to adapt to that is another soft skill. So in closing, I thank Noah for the introduction. I actually worked with his mom for 5 years at a previous company, and when I interviewed with that company, I basically made one statement to the hiring person, and I basically said, I'm at a fork in the road in my career. I can either go get the most technical certification for my industry, or I can go and get an MBA or be able to talk project-related or things that are non-technical. The standing joke in my company is 15 years later, I've done neither. I've done neither of them. But the point is that I was at a point in my career where I had a good balance of, that being able to wear the propeller head, but also to be able to turn around and put on a suit, get in front of a customer, give a speech, talk eloquently, relate to an audience, things of that nature, which balance with my technical knowledge is what has helped me in my career. Might be a little different now because a lot of the paradigms have changed, but at the end of the day, it comes with, you guys are already well equipped from the technology perspective and the smarts. Make sure you spend a lot of time on the other side with your soft skills, because having both will really take you where you want to go. Thank you very much.